And now, The Federal Drive with Terry Gerton, sponsored by GEHA.
Welcome to The Federal Drive on Federal News Network. It's Thursday, March 26th. I'm your host, Terry Gerton, and I'm glad you're here. Coming up on this hour of The Federal Drive, we'll continue our topic from Wednesday's show, developing and implementing a national strategy for an issue that spans multiple federal agencies when no one is in charge. Today, we'll tackle another urgent issue, what a national workforce strategy could look like and who might lead it. Plus, we'll take a historical look at the impacts of wartime headlines on the markets and TSP investments. Those stories and much more ahead during this hour of The Federal Drive. We begin with this. These days, you can bet on almost everything, from sports to politics to the stock market. At the Department of the Navy, PEO Digital is making big bets on technology. As part of its shift to a more lean, startup mindset, the Navy is making small investments in technologies that they hope will deliver big results. For more on how the Navy's Program Executive Office Digital is testing and deciding on its technology bets, Federal News Network Executive Editor Jason Miller talked to Louis Koplin, the Acting Program Executive Officer for the Navy's PEO Digital.
The good news is those small bets have really been paying off. So small bets are evolving into large bets where we are now committing to creating something that can be an enterprise service going into Horizon 1 and that can drive out the current Horizon 1 incumbents into Horizon 0 where we cattle drive them and divest. So that's really been the story of the year is earning scale because scale is earned. It's not granted. It can't be directed. We need our enterprise services to be credible, to be a better value proposition for program managers and fleet operators and the general workforce so they don't work around us but through us. And it takes time and sets and reps, but we're getting there.
All right, I love the idea of small bets going into large bets that then go into enterprise services. Give me an example maybe of a small bet that's now either A, large bet, or B, even better, an enterprise service.
So all of our enterprise services have started that way. Two of our earliest bets were on Naval Identity Services, which is our enterprise identity suite, and our Naval Enterprise Service Desk, which is our IT service management automation platform. And those all started off with good ideas. I think they were actually both OTAs. And those OTAs, other transaction agreements, went into production agreements. And those production agreements sustained an evolution of the capability so that we could bring along all those abilities and the .MLPF. And oftentimes, it's not the innovation, but the innovation adoption and scaling that's so challenging. So, who do you call when you have a problem? In the case of the service desk is who you call. So who do you call when the service desk itself has a problem? Where can we get more automation? How do we take out the cost structure so that we're not paying a premium cutting-edge price for something that's now more mature? And that's really a partnership with our industry vendors because early on we really want to enable them to experiment and innovate and push the limits of the use case and the technology. But after a while we say, we think we know what this looks like vertically, horizontally. Now, how do we shift the focus from investing to maximize effectiveness to extracting costs to maximize efficiency? So those are two cases. We have more recent ones, the BYOD with our Nautilus Mobile. That took a while because we had to work with DOW CIO on policy that was really a little rooted in 5-10 years ago. And they were great with us because they said, you're really helping to shape the future of DOW policy. So here are some exceptions for right now to get you going, and then you come back and tell us how to update the overall. So that took some time, but we're now, for our Nautilus Mobile Personal, able to take essentially unlimited enrollment. And that's really great for everyone who hates carrying two phones. And that is a walled garden approach. So if there's an issue, the government data gets wiped, your whole phone doesn't get wiped. And it's not enrolling your personal device in government management. So it's a really good, again, use case for the user experience and the cybersecurity in a way that maximizes the mission.
When we talk about enterprise services and the small bets, large bets, and so on and so forth, what's on tap for 2026? Do you have some small bets that you're starting to lay out and move forward on, or do you have some large bets that you're hoping to move to enterprise services? Can you give me maybe an update on a couple priorities across all the areas?
The Central Data Exchange is our API marketplace, and that's in the process of going from the small bet to the large bet. We're all really excited for it to be an enterprise service, and I think it will get there. But we're also, like I said, being deliberate and controlling how much we put it out there until it's fully baked. We don't want people to get disillusioned when something's pushed before it's ready. We're working on some secure global chat for bringing in our Department of the Navy partners who need to have fit-for-purpose collaboration spaces at a variety of security levels. And they're not necessarily going to have a CAC. They're not necessarily going to have the centrally authenticated identity, but there are ways to authenticate them. So some of those collaboration spaces are going to endure, perhaps with industry and academia. Some of those may be perishable. Maybe there's an exercise and coalition partners come together, and we've got generals and admirals from different nations who need to chat very securely for a while until they don't. So that's another one that we just launched, and those probably cover kind of the range of more mature to less mature.
Going back to the central data exchange, the API one, the idea here is somebody develops maybe an API, they put it into the central data exchange so other people can use it and take advantage of it. And your idea is to do what with it?
No, that is the idea, is to take out the work and energy to create the data flows across all the different missions and all the different portfolios. So we're in this data-driven ecosystem. The data is obviously the lifeblood for AI and other things. So there are a lot of reasons to move data around. A lot of those movements are repetitive. So, for instance, lots of people need data out of Navy ERP, which is our master business system for finance and procurement and personnel. Lots of data is in Jupyter, which is the Don's Advana subtenant. Does everyone need connections to Navy ERP and Jupyter and Advana? Probably not. So really, CDX is the hub we're trying to put as a central point of consumption that itself can have deployable sub-hubs, if you will, master nodes, so we can take it into a DDIL shipboard environment and say this whole architecture, this cloud-native zero-trust architecture, is itself deployable and containerized and can go into ships. So that hub-and-spoke data ecosystem you can take with you to the point of need. And then, although API Marketplace has obviously got API in the name, it's not limited to modern API-capable systems. We can do batch data transformations and take our secure FTP files and things like that. So it really is meant to be the single-stop shop for data brokerage.
What's the steps to get it from small bet to large bet to eventually enterprise services? Is it adding more users and seeing if things break, or is there some technology kind of back end saying, okay, we know it does X and Y, but we have to also get it to do Z?
Yeah, it's all of the above. So there's the maturing of the technology. Sometimes it comes in and it's credible enough to take an investment, but it's not all the way there. Maybe it doesn't comply with all of the mandatory cybersecurity standards. Maybe it's starting off at an IL2 level. We need to get up to IL5 or IL6 or higher. Sometimes it's the business side of things. Are the right contracts in place to place more orders? Do we have the service desk in place? Do we know who's going to operate and maintain it? So it's all these things. The Department of the Navy does have a published set of enterprise service standards and criteria. And when you're ready to move from that large bet to an enterprise service, you do a self-assessment. Everyone kind of looks at that and says, does this hold water or not? So that's a great target. And we can take that back and say, even at the small bet stage, do we think we're ever going to get there? As you prepare to go to a large bet, are you making progress? You don't need to be there, but we need to be able to see that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Another big bet that you all talked about over the years, and you talked about last time, was flank speed. This idea of having a Microsoft Office meeting all the tenets of zero trust architecture, Office 365 meeting that. What's the latest with that? Last year, this time, we talked about, you guys thought about, okay, how do we move it to C? How do we take that architecture and continue to expand? Who can have access to it? Any updates you can give?
Yeah, we're continuing to build that out. We hit that target for DoD, Zero Trust very early on. But that's not a static target, so we're continuing to evolve the security profile across Microsoft 365 and the Azure tenant, heavily using Microsoft Defender and Microsoft Sentinel as the automation and cyber defense layers. We've looked at other use cases for folks who have specialized IL5 CUI requirements and made sure that we can host their data, whether that's nuclear propulsion information or law enforcement criminal justice information, personally identifiable information, PII, PHI. So these are some of the use cases that we still pursue to make sure we've completed IL5 work. I'm working on that for other security classifications, so making sure that We've got like and similar capabilities at those higher classifications. And yes, taking it to sea, very challenging for a cloud-native architecture. So we've continued to make good progress there. The work we started last year with Flank Speed Wireless and Flank Speed Edge continues to progress both afloat and ashore.
Louis Koplin is the Acting Program Executive Officer for the Navy's PEO Digital, speaking there with Federal News Network's Executive Editor, Jason Miller. You can find Jason's full story at federalnewsnetwork.com. Up next, fixing the talent pipeline doesn't require a single sweeping reform, but it does require coordination. This is The Federal Drive with Terry Gerton on Federal News Network.